let me ask you this, because this is something that we kind of fell into about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were talking about those kinds of policies that are set in place and then the country wants them, right? Just kind of what you've talked about, working for families, interest-free student loans, the health system, state housing. And as we went through these kind of foundational legislative changes in New Zealand, we went, fuck, they're all from the left.
Yeah.
And we've been struggling, like genuinely looking for anything from the right that has been implemented from day one that everyone in the country has gone, like John Key came along and went, we'll keep interest-free student loans, we'll keep working for families because he had to. I can't think of a policy or a legislative change that national or the right has brought in that the whole country with one voice has gone, don't you dare fucking touch that. And what does that say about the right in politics? There's an old saying that the left make policy and the right respond to policy. And I wonder how true that actually is.
You're absolutely on the money, and you're completely right. You'd have to go back to Muldoon because he had a completely different philosophical perspective of what the National Party should be, and saw it as a state responsibility to step in and provide these services. Since the Muldoon age, it's gone very, very free market, very, very much privatization. The state doesn't have the answers. Let the free market decide. The political project of the right, and this is ACT and this is national, is to starve the state of revenue in the first place so that there's no money to redistribute, right? So if the state doesn't have the money to begin with, can't redistribute it. So that's always the game. Cut back the ability of the state to raise revenue, tax cuts, privatization, selling stuff off, do that to the absolute maximum and limit the state's ability to provide. Because if people aren't being provided by the state, so the philosophy goes, they'll have to do it on their own. And the problem here is because we've gone so far to the right, always to a very minimalist state approach. I mean, even where we do have regulations, there's only like a handful of inspectors, right? Like there's a handful of inspectors for healthy homes. There's a handful of inspectors for all of the migrant worker exploitations that occur in New Zealand. There's only a few. So it's a very, very lightly regulated market that allows businesses to dominate, become duopolies, monopolies, oligopolies. And because we're on an island, it becomes monopoly rental. So you've got very set ideas and very set interests. And they refuse point blank to be challenged. That's why ACT and National are raising so much money from the billionaire class right now, because they're wanting their interests protected by not having regulation, by loosening up all of these requirements that Labor have poured on. So that's the constant stress. And that's the constant pull and sort of tug of war between the left and the right. Because the right generally can't argue a particularly convincing argument as to why you should just, get back a McDonald's Happy Meal once a year in the form of a tax cut, and we make shitloads. Because that's a very difficult argument to sell people. They're reliant on culture war stuff. And you've seen, certainly with ACT, they have just dominated this culture war issue. And because I think woke middle-class activists, who are very alienating at times, have pushed so many of our brothers over to the right, you've got guys who are voting ACT without really knowing what the bloody hell ACT are going to implement. And so you've got the right playing culture war games and not wanting an economic debate, because actually when you sit back and think about it, the demarcation of power in a liberal progressive democracy is the 1% wealthy plus their 9% enablers versus the 90% rest of us. And the moment we all realize, hold on, 90% of us are all on the same side here, you buggers need to pay more to pay for the infrastructure and the social wraparound services that this society requires, and you should start paying your fair share now. Because once politics simply gets to that point, the right always lose.